It says we're live.
We are live. Hello, Ryan Gonzalez.
Hello, Meryl Stewart.
So, everybody, welcome to our latest installment of our live Facebook broadcasts, where we're answering questions about your business and how you're doing. We're trying to just give you some advice or answer questions you might have to help you keep moving forward. I'm Meryl Stewart. I'm the CEO of Marketing and Business Solutions, and I'm so excited to be joined by Ryan Gonzalez, a colleague and friend of mine. She is the CEO of the Touchstone Collective and started that about a year ago, right, Ryan? It's been about a year.
A little over now. It's crazy.
I know. And so she's got over 15 years of experience working with nonprofits. She's worked in the for-profit sector. She's amazing at, working with companies on kind of strategic business development, really thinking about what are the next steps in their business plan, how do they best position themselves for growth. And I thought that she could give us a kind of unique perspective today on kind of what's happening out there and how do we get businesses ready to run a marathon, because it's definitely not a sprint. None of us know when all the coronavirus and other things that are happening in our world right now are going to kind of slow down. And so how do we get businesses to that next level? So I just wanted to thank you for joining us, and just kind of start with having you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing out there. I know you're working with some clients in the area, but what are you hearing from people? What are they challenged with right now?
It's such a raw time. It's such a uncomfortable time. People are having to go outside of their skin right now to really think about, what do I do next, and where do I go? But what I think is so awesome about it is it's such a period of growth for people. We can sit here and talk about all the negative things going on in the world around us, but at the end of the day, I think 2020 could really be a pivotal year, and really having us be very creative and think very differently about how we do things. And so what I'm basically hearing is this nervousness in people, but also this excitement at the same time. So it's kind of a mixture of those things. And I think people are learning a lot about themselves and their businesses. They're getting to know their employees a lot deeper than they have ever done in the past. And they're doing more for community, which I think is awesome.
I think what I'm finding too is that people are having to actually listen. I think that all of us are so busy all the time, and we have our phones in front of our faces, and our laptops are going off, and our emails buzzing, and all those things. And I think that it's almost forced us to kind of just sit back for a second. And I'm not saying we're not busy, and there aren't people that aren't trying to save their businesses or their workforces and all of that, but there's almost like a kind of a pause to redetermine what's most important, and what needs to be strategically done to move forward. That I feel like people are listening more and making more well thought out decisions in some respects about where to take their business and their people. What have you from a community perspective? So businesses are one aspect. From a community perspective, what are you hearing? Like, how are organizations doing, and what are some things that they are looking at as kind of important factors or challenges that they're having, and will be facing for some time?
Yeah, I think, and that's why today we're talking about a marathon, right? Because it's really going outside of what you've normally done and thinking about what your new normal is. And so I think when people are really looking inside their businesses and how they really can be a do good business, right? Because at this time we all have to be supporting each other. Probably one of the unique times in history where we're all going through the same thing at the same time. So we can kind of lean on each other. So I think from a community standpoint, people are looking for empathy, and they're looking for connection right now, because you can't go out there and go to a million events and see people and connect. So how do we connect? And that's a key part of it. And I think sometimes some of the clients I work with think, oh, we shouldn't be talking to this person right now, or we shouldn't be doing this right now. But even if it's a phone call, we call them mental health checks, to just see how somebody's doing, and how you can help them out and provide resources for people, because we all have unique resources we can provide to one another. I
Yep.
think community is looking for that connection right now, in a new way. And so the more you can be creative about it and think how you can make that connection, and find the right partners, we call them our Avengers, find the right Avengers in your circle. That's going to be a big part of community coming together.
I agree. And so explain a little bit about, because I love the term do good business. So explain kind of what that means to people so they kind of have some context
Yeah.
about that.
So, what's so beautiful about Tampa Bay in general is there's so many amazing businesses out there that build up these great corporate social responsibility programs. These programs that, they're really looking deep and doing these deep dives in their businesses. And I know that we do a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Where we come in and we really talk about what's the best ROI, for you as a business, for your employees, and also where you can really do something very good for the community with your philanthropic efforts. And so, on that side of the coin, I call them do good businesses because they're businesses that make that a priority for them, their goals and what they want to do moving forward. Then you think about all the thousands of nonprofits in our community that are touching so many people every
Yeah.
single day, that are hurting as well right now. And so they're really looking at their plans and how they're putting together the next 6 to 12 months, and putting together plans A, B, and C, because thinking about just plan A doesn't work anymore. Really going a little bit deeper, for the next year until we have something more permanent in place. So, do good businesses to me are on both sides of the aisle working together.
Well, and I think that that's something, I was, it's been about a month or so, but I was talking to a friend about, we're talking about how businesses are going to make it through, with financial assistance, with different kinds of aid, people need to go back to work, all these things, but more from a for-profit sector perspective. And one of the things I said, we're having a conversation about something, and I said, but no one's talking about the impact on the nonprofit side. And what's interesting is that, whether we are actively thinking about it or not, the nonprofit sector is the sector that picks up, all the pieces from a human service perspective. So when we don't have food or people need shelter, or, there's medical emergencies, or they're going to get evicted, or, whatever kind of assistance, that most of the time that support comes through nonprofit organizations. And what I was saying to this kind of, for-profit, discussion and group was that, look, one of the things that is really important is to know which businesses are standing beside those nonprofit organizations to support them, because for a couple of reasons. One, from a community perspective, I think it's important to know that businesses that you support, that you're a customer of, that you buy services or products through, are doing something good with the profits that they are making, or they're giving back to, organizations and causes that are impacting their employees or their workforce, something good with it. They're not just raking in the profits and, you know, buying expensive cars and going on trips, or buying private islands so they can be at the max of social distancing. I don't know, but that they're doing something good with it. And on the other hand, it's important from a fundraising perspective to know which businesses are investing money or have money to invest, because it's also, kind of one of those periods where you don't know if it's always the right time to ask someone to make a gift or to make an investment. One, because now more than ever, I think you don't really know where people's resources lie, unless you have kind of those in-depth conversations about it. And if you're an organization that's afraid to have a conversation about it, as a business, I think it's good for them to also make known that they're out there helping. And many of them have. I mean, I know in the Tampa Bay area here, we've had a lot of companies step up and support resiliency funds and things like that. But I also think, to your point about the do good business, it's more than just giving. Like, it's something that kind of runs through their culture. It's something that all their employees believe in. It's something that they represent as a value of their organization to give back. And so making that link between the nonprofits who are doing the work and need the help and the companies is really an important link.
It only makes us all stronger as community.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing here is how do we connect with each other and use each other's strengths to get through this time and come out on the other end so much smarter, so much brighter, doing so much more. So it's very positive time, even in all this craziness. You know, we can really make some good strides.
I agree. So, what are some things that you think businesses should be keeping in mind right now? If they're thinking about, maybe implementing kind of a social responsibility plan or getting involved or wanting to kind of make that shift, what are some things that you help people think about as they're working through that?
I think it's a good time for reflection and really looking at who's been most involved with them. Like if you look at your 10%, your top 10%, those folks who have probably done something for you big in the last 5 years, how do you love on these people a little bit more, right? Because they want to love on you, you want to love on them. How can you do that better in this time? So I try to tell everybody in this time when they're planning and they're trying to think about all the activities they need to do, also put a plan in place for how you are human at this time. So how do you do that too? Whether it's you're sending more communications out to people, you're doing those mental health check calls, like I like to call them. You're giving them some kind of a special discount or opportunity that not everybody gets because you know that they care about you. What are some things you can put into your monthly planning that you're making sure you're making those touch points with people? So that's one thing. Another thing, I know I mentioned the Avengers. So we're all,
Which I love. I love for so many reasons, but we won't dive into, all the movies I've seen. So
yeah,
continue.
yeah. So, those Avengers, right? Like, you should be, and we're doing this in a sense here, Meryl, today. It's like we're reaching out to those people who we know that we could work with together in the future, that we can partner with, even if it's just a shoulder, because sometimes we're life
Yeah.
coaches career too. What are those alliances that we could make moving forward? So, there's more win-wins. We're all win-winning together, which I think is something that we need to take a deeper look at. So in our planning processes as we move forward. I think the event industry has taken a huge hit. So when we think of events too, it's hard to just reschedule things now anymore, especially as we cross this finish line in 2020 and go to 2021. So having that plan A, B, and C, whether it's, hey, let's reschedule our event date, but then let's also think about if this has to go to a virtual event, what do we do? If we don't have an event at all, what are some
Right.
put into our sponsorship packages so that we can still count on these people and give them a good return on the investment of their money. So whatever we're doing, what are our plans for events that it consists of a few different components, I think is also something we should be thinking about moving forward. But I think when you think of a marathon overall, there's going to be times with your team that it's going to be hard and you're going to want to stop and you might want to quit. But if you prep yourself with the right tools, you will have a good plan moving forward, and you'll be prepared for whatever's coming.
So let's talk about the marathon mentality because I know that you're my superhero. And I will say I've run for a long time during my life and really felt like that was uh, I don't know, like the way, like you kind of find the way that you release your energy, and some people go to classes and some people spin and some people run and there's all these different things. For me it was running for a really long time, and I think after we had the girls it just was harder. It was hard on my body to do it. It just was harder, and it wasn't necessarily the best thing for me to do. But you have been rocking this whole running marathon train. I know you've been training for a marathon and I know things have gotten rescheduled, but talk about kind of the mental process of preparing for a marathon and help kind of connect the dots for how some of those that perspective is important and how businesses and people are thinking now. I know just from watching you and following some of the stuff that you've done that it's every day and it's a commitment. But I'd love for you to kind of share what your journey's been with it.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey, that's for sure. It's no easy task, and like you said, it's not for everybody, and that's fine, right? Like I think as we're all planning for our businesses and our growth, you do your research, right? You reach out to people, you figure out what's working for them, what's not working for them, just like you do in a marathon situation. And you find what works for you. And that's what's going to get you to the finish line, finding what works for you, but going out there and doing your research and trying things out. And so it's the same thing with the marathon. You get your tribe, you get your Avengers who are alongside you, who are rooting you on, but at the same time, giving you some tools that you need to move forward. And so I think there's a lot of that goes into training. I think there's also times where you hit roadblocks and you think you have it all figured out and you got to readjust. And
Yep.
so, I had an incident like that with my running shoes. So, have, you have that time where you think you know it all and you think you got it, but sometimes you got to change the mentality. So change is the only thing that's constant, that somebody told me once, and I truly believe that in the situation
Yeah.
we're in. So that plays into it, and tie your efforts into motivating others. I think when you can show people your motivations for why you do things, whether you're a business, a for-profit business, or a nonprofit, more people will follow. And so you
Yeah.
set a great example. And I think, for change as well, now when you're running the marathon, you see people alongside of you losing weight, who are more happy mentally, who have gotten family members and friends involved. So it's a reciprocal effect. And so be a leader in it.
I think that I would like to rename this time as the time where our running shoes, there was something wrong with our running shoes. Like that should be this period of time. I mean, it's a great analogy though, because, sometimes you just keep doing the same things over and over. And I know, that's the definition of insanity when you expect these different results. I get that. But what I'm saying is that we expect that if we have kind of trained ourselves to do something a certain way, that will continue to propel us in the direction that we had planned. And that's not the case. I mean, almost every time that's not the case. We all realize it
Yeah.
after the fact, and it's painful going through it. But I think that, to your point, it's almost like when you wake up every day and you start training for that marathon, right? Whether you're going to run it in 3 months or it's going to take you a whole nother year before they even have one again. And I hope they do, because I think I'd like to come and watch you, because I don't know that I could ever run that long or that far. But I think that, the bigger issue is not necessarily that you win or that you have the best time, but it's almost that there is huge success in just getting up every day and knowing that you're going to keep moving forward towards your goal. And just because you woke up yesterday and ran a certain way to get to that goal doesn't mean you're going to wake up tomorrow and run the same way. And so being flexible in thought and in mind and leadership about how you get to the goal is the journey right now. And I think that the more people that are flexible in that thinking and can kind of overcome their own personal expectations of where they should be or what their business should look like, and kind of ride the wave a little bit to see what new opportunities, presents itself, is important. And I agree with you. I mean, I think as challenging as it is right now, and with us personally, with family members, we know, with friends, there is opportunity at every turn. It's just a matter of whether or not we decide that we're going to try it, to face it, or to take that extra leap and, try a different path. I'm thankful to be surrounded by friends, especially people like you that, keep challenging me to think, the next step, and not be afraid if the path changes along the way. But yeah, I think that the marathon mentality is something to be reckoned with. I think that many of us operate in short sprints. It's like we can see the light at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel, run as fast as you can. And then we're exhausted. And we realize, oh, that was only like the first lap. There's a lot more to run. And it's pacing yourself, I think, along the way.
Yeah, it's such a mental game. It is,
Mhm.
and but it's so inspiring too. It's just to go through the paces of it. Using another running term, the paces of it. Um, it just shows you that you don't always know where you're going with it. I mean, I did this as a health thing to run a marathon and push myself, and it's turned into this thing now. I actually have a group, it's called Miles for the Mind, where we're all inspiring each other to get through this time, and that was never what it was intended to be. So I think sometimes in this time, being open to new things, when somebody presents an opportunity that you would think never, maybe consider it or think about it. This could be a time for real growth and change for businesses.
And I think it's a great time to allow others in to help. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to carry that load ourselves. And it's kind
Mhm.
of like what you're saying with this group. I mean, you have a group of people, kind of a tribe of people, that are helping you move forward, and you guys are all keeping each other balanced and motivated. Not just for running, but mentally and personally and emotionally. And so I think sometimes we all, people feel like they have to make decisions on their own, or
Mhm.
they can only, reflect with a couple people that know what they're dealing with. But, I think that it's one of those times and a great opportunity to let others help. And sometimes that looks like, bringing in outside expertise, for a short period of time. Sometimes it's just bouncing an idea off of somebody who, you can say is smarter than you, or whose strengths lie in places that yours don't, and embrace it. And I've been, and I know you have too, but been in many situations in my career and in my life where, you kind of have to humbly admit that you're not good at something, and that that's not your strength, and that there's someone else that, carries that strength that is your weakness. And it's not about competing with them. It's about embracing it. The more
Mhm.
you fight it and resist it, the worse the worse it
No.
is. But if you just embrace it, and even, it's not always something you need for a long period of time, but sometimes it gives you just enough perspective to be able to pivot and make that change, so that you can see something a different way, or have growth in your business or your life in some other way. So I think that when you surround yourself with the right people, it helps you get to the place that you're meant to be. And I just love that. I love that you're part of it. How many miles? I can't remember what the challenge was for May. How many miles did you run in May, Ryan? Did
So
you?
our group ran, and it was a challenge inspired by Run Tampa, and our group took it on, and it's called the 100 Mile in May Challenge. And so we're actually expanding this come we're having a summer burn is what we're calling it, and it's going to be there's 3 levels of burn that you can have, and they all have different levels of miles associated with it. But we're going to do virtual birthday runs for anyone who has a summer birthday to help get to the miles, and it's just a nice thing to do. And I think, as we really, like you said, move forward listening to each other, and either within its personal or business, the more we can listen to each other and use each other's talents, it I think is where we really need to go. And I think you and I are a perfect example of that. We're in the same industry, but there's I mean, we work together. I mean, that's what
Right.
this is about. It's about working together, and knowing again what you need to do and what your strengths are. And us, we know a lot of people in the community, right? And it's for us, for me as an extrovert and you as an extrovert, like, I want to stay connected. I can't be at a million events anymore, but I do want to stay connected with people. And I think that should be true for everybody, even if you're an introvert, like, it's helpful for the mind.
Yeah, it is. And it is, I think, important to align yourself with people that, have the same values, and that can, whether you're, an independent, business owner, or you work for a company, especially right now, to just make sure you're aligned with some key people that can keep you motivated, hold you accountable. You can hold them accountable, for where you move to next. But I'm just thrilled. I mean, I know, we've had the opportunity to work together on some different client projects, but as an individual, I'm just, I'm proud of you. Like, I admire you and your strengths, and what you bring to the table, especially your running. But here's the thing, like, there isn't a place that I know where I could refer business to, that people could get business consulting while they're also getting marathon coaching all in one. So I think that needs to
I
be a
don't know that
product line for you, Ryan.
I'm
You're talking
no, but
about business expansion. I think that this is the key. Like it's exercise and business consulting at the same time. But
yeah,
um,
I mean, it's important. Exercise makes you want to do more. Like
yeah,
that runner's high thing is true. And I will say that, when you're thinking about training for a marathon and you think about time, right? Like time goes so fast. And there's going to be that point, and I think the same it holds to a business, right? You have this long-term plan, and then one day you snap your fingers, and it's there, and you need to
right.
do. And so I think when you're having the right people in your corner who need to actually execute, and when I say execute, having you raise the money, you've really got to make sure that those pieces of connection are in there,
Right.
because you want to go out there and you want to have the right people on your team, whether it's in your team or outside of your team, who can come in there and already have those relationships built with people, so that you know it feels very organic. That's what you need.
Yeah, it needs to feel genuine and important. And so I agree with you. And I think it's no better time if you don't have a plan, if have been thinking about adjusting your plan as a business. It's the time, to be making those adjustments, to be thinking about, what's our plan A, B, and C. In Florida, we're in hurricane season. So we've got, all kinds of fun things happening. But I think it's important, to realign your team, make sure you have the right people in the right place. To be thinking about how you're going to strategically position yourself, as an organization or as a company that's connected with others, and how you're going to work together to solve a problem or to do better business and collaborate, which I think is such a great time right now to be thinking that way. And I think people are much more open to it because they realize that in many cases they can't do what they were doing before by themselves. They need to align themselves with the right strategic partners. And I just think it's great time for personal reflection too about what is it that we each bring to the table to make our businesses stronger, to make our employees, feel good about the work that they're doing, regardless of where and how they're working. And how do we continue to connect people together that, may have strengths to share to make our communities and ourselves and our businesses better. So, is there anything else that I missed in asking today that you wanted to share with everybody?
I just wanted to mention, because you brought up a good point about connecting with employees. And I think one of the things I am hearing is that when things do calm down, I think there's going to be a lot of transition in organizations and with people who are within them. So when you're doing your planning, if you're a for-profit or nonprofit, you know the more you can communicate with your employee base, the more you can get them engaged in something that they now truly believe in you as a company. Now is the time to take those projects on. I mean, I have one client who is a for-profit business, and he's starting a foundation, and it
Mm,
has united his employees. Like, it has truly um, shown them and given them some purpose in this time. And so I think that's one thing I just wanted to bring up as people are doing their planning, is to think about the transition that's going to happen once things do calm down, because there will be a lot of that, I feel.
yeah, I think it will. And I think how you keep people engaged,
Mhm.
whether they end up coming back to work in a more traditional environment, or, you've, as a business, decided, hey, this virtual thing works. And, we're going to keep people working the way that they are, at least for a while. Really thinking about them as part of that plan on how do you engage them and keep the culture and the values of your company together, or your organization, with people dispersed. And I have to say, I mean, we have a couple clients that we're working with that it's really apparent that they work hard at making sure that they stay connected.
Yeah.
And it should be part of their plan. I don't know that it is. I think they're just doing it because those are the kind of type of people they all are. But I think having it written down intentionally as a goal and as something that's important to you as a business or an organization is a good thing to have, because people can make or break, everything that happens in an instant. And the more that you know, allow them to be part of the culture and help them feel empowered to bring ideas to the table and to feel connected, I think that it just fosters better growth for everyone. So, anyway, I think that's great insight. Thank you for bringing that up. So,
I
all right.
love that we're having a conversation, and quite honestly, I just like seeing your face right now.
Well, we've done Zoom chat, so, you haven't been without, one-on-one, time to connect in a while, so but
I
anyway, thank you. It's good
we're
to see your face too.
rare ones who actually like to talk about, making people money and asking for money. There's not too many of those.
Yeah, there's not many people that enjoy doing that. It's kind of a interesting, weird combination of talents, but I'll take it. But I just want to thank everybody in our audience for watching. I hope that you found, the points that Ryan has shared and things that we've discussed today helpful. And as always, if you have questions about your business or organization and you need help in any way, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and I'll share those tags in our post once the video has been posted on social media, and as well as Ryan. She's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can connect with her personally or through her business, the Touchstone Collective. And, we're just here to help you. I mean, and I've said this before, regardless of whether or not it turns into business for us, this is not about that. This is about just sharing things that we've been through, experiences that we've had, trends that we're seeing that better position you in your business. And that's the purpose, is just to help you be in a better place than where you started, regardless of whether or not you engage us. It's the right thing to do with the knowledge that we have, and we're happy to share it. So, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today, and you have to keep us updated on your marathon training.
Oh, definitely. So, if anybody wants to get out there and run, we have a little group, Miles for the Mind. Join it, and you can get some inspiration for your own personal goals. But definitely, thank you for having me, Meryl.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'm just so happy to be here today.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.